My son's hand struck straight across my cheek, fast, burning hot, a hit so sharp it snapped my head to the side. The metallic taste of blood flooded my mouth immediately. My teeth bit into the inside of my cheek, tearing a deep cut through the soft tissue. I froze, one trembling hand lifting to touch the skin now blazing with pain. The kitchen blurred, spinning slightly. The smoke from Mireya's cigarette drifted in milky rings between us, like some ghost hovering in the air. My son had just hit me. Donovan. The child I raised alone in a cramped South Philly apartment. The child I worked double shifts for while his father drowned himself in alcohol until it killed him. The child whose every college tuition payment came from the old coffee cans I hid in my closet for decades. That child, today, had slapped his own mother in the luxurious kitchen of a condo in the heart of Rittenhouse Square. Maybe now you'll learn to shut your mouth. Donovan's voice was icy, cold in a way that made me feel like I was nothing, like I was a stain he'd just found on the marble floor. Hello to everyone watching. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. I still couldn't speak, couldn't even move. Each breath felt strangled. My chest tightened. All I had asked for was one thing, just one small thing. Because the doctor said my lungs were slowly dying. Because emphysema doesn't care who owns this house, whose rules run it, or how expensive a cigarette is, even if it costs more than the $1,100 of disability assistance I receive each month. Mireya laughed, not a loud laugh, just a small sound, but dripping with satisfaction. Her lips curled into a sly, cruel smile as she inhaled another drag. Her yoga outfit probably cost more than I used to earn in a week at the factory. Her ponytail was neat, perfect, not a hair out of place, not a worry in the world. Donovan turned away from me, walked to her side, and placed a kiss on her forehead, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just struck his 73-year-old mother hard enough to draw blood. Want to eat out tonight? Perfect, Mireya purred. She crushed her cigarette onto the plate I had washed that morning. My hands still smelled faintly of dish soap. They left the house about 15 minutes later, Donovan's arm wrapped around Mireya's waist, her laughter echoing through the open door. Then the engine started. The Mercedes, a car worth 5 years of my income, growled and sped off. The house fell silent again. Only my breathing remained, harsh, fragile. Each inhale felt like swallowing shards of glass. I walked into the living room. No, their living room, not mine. A space filled with white and gray tones, elegant yet cold, like a hospital waiting room where people sit and wait for bad news. I sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress was so soft I never got used to it, soft in that expensive way, soft in a way that was never meant for night shift workers like me. The phone lay on the bedside table beside a photo taken on Donovan's high school graduation day. He was beaming, and my arm was wrapped proudly around his shoulders. That photo looked like it belonged to another lifetime. I wondered, was that moment real? Did that love ever truly exist? My hand shook as I picked up the phone. My cheek throbbed, swelling, reddening. Tomorrow it would bruise, the shape of a hand, the mark of betrayal. I opened my contacts. Names I hadn't called in years stared back at me. People who once owed me, people who knew me when I was still strong. Before I was dimmed, before I became invisible inside my own family. My finger stopped on the first name, Jermaine Hobbs. I had helped him 20 years ago when his wife left, when he collapsed into rock bottom and needed someone, anyone, to believe he was still worth something. Now Jermaine was one of Pennsylvania's top elder abuse attorneys. I called. He answered on the second ring. "Estelle, is that you?" My voice cracked, thin as thread. "Jermaine, I need help." "What happened?" I told him. Not everything, but enough. The slap, the cigarette, the 6 months of humiliation, the $400 they forced me to hand over from my tiny $1,100 disability check. Jermaine's voice hardened instantly. "Don't touch anything. Don't change anything. We're building a case." I made 2 more calls. Keisha Dunley, my childhood friend, now an investigative reporter at the Philadelphia Inquirer. She owed me for the year I cared for her mother during her final days so Keisha could finish her college exams. And Andre Tillman, Donovan's college roommate. The boy I practically raised alongside my son, who used to call me Mama Estelle. He was now a forensic financial analyst, specializing in family financial abuse. As I ended the third call, I heard Donovan's car return. Mireya's laughter floated up from the garage. Donovan's low, steady voice followed. They were coming back from a dinner soaked in wine and fine food, as if the world held no consequences. I looked up at the mirror. The handprint on my cheek was bright, vivid, furious. I smiled. Let them laugh tonight. Let them think I'm weak. Let them believe I am broken. Tomorrow, everything changes. If you're still watching, leave a single dot in the comments so I know I'm not telling this story alone. The next chapter, 6 months in the Rittenhouse Hell House, will reveal everything they did to me before the slap. Stay tuned. The story is only beginning. I was only 17 when I met Donovan's father, Marcus Rowland. Handsome in that dangerous way young girls often confuse with excitement. He worked construction, drank beer with his buddies after every shift, and promised me the world with a smile that made my knees go weak. I became pregnant 3 months after we married. Marcus celebrated by getting drunk again. Donovan was born on a Tuesday in March. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Screaming, bursting with life. Marcus arrived 6 hours late, reeking of whiskey and full of the same tired excuses. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in South Philly, walls thin as paper, neighbors arguing nearly every night, police sirens wailing past the windows. But it was still home, our small world. When Donovan was 6 months old, I got a second-shift job at the Morrison Textile Factory. Marcus promised he would watch the baby, but most nights when I came home, Donovan was lying in his crib screaming hoarse, his diaper full, his bottle drained dry, and Marcus was passed out on the sofa, TV blaring. I worked 40 hours a week, sometimes 50, sometimes 60 if they offered overtime. My feet swelled in my work boots. My hands cracked and bled from the chemicals, my lungs filled with cotton dust and the smoke of 300 workers puffing away during breaks. But I had a coffee can hidden behind my closet, tucked behind winter coats and Donovan's old baby clothes I could never bring myself to throw away. Every paycheck, I stuffed $20 inside, 10 when times were hard, 5 when Marcus drank too much. If you're still listening, leave a heart in the comments. Because from here on, even my most beautiful memories will become the reason the slap in the present hurts 1,000 times more. I remember Donovan's first day of preschool like it was carved into my bones. He stood in the doorway, backpack bigger than his whole back, those wide, anxious eyes. "Mom, I don't want to go." I knelt down and looked him straight in the eyes. "I know, baby. But sometimes we have to do scary things so we can grow stronger later." What if I don't get strong, Mom?" I hugged him. The smell of milk, baby shampoo, the scent of the child I had poured my entire life into protecting. "Then I'll be strong for you, until you're big enough to be strong for yourself." He looked at me, cheeks wet with tears. "Promise?" "I promise." I didn't know I would have to keep that promise for 30 years. When Donovan was 8, I caught a severe flu, fever at 104 degrees. I couldn't get out of bed. Marcus was on a work trip, meaning drunk somewhere. Through the haze, I heard little footsteps rushing toward me. Donovan climbed onto the bed with a damp washcloth in his hand. "Mom, I'm going to wipe your face, okay?" His tiny hand pressed the cloth against my forehead, cool, soothing. "I made soup for you." His voice was proud. "Soup from the can. But I heated it." I forced my eyes open. He stood there in an oversized t-shirt and drooping shorts, holding a steaming bowl. "My sweet boy. Because you said when you're weak, I have to be strong for you." He smiled. "Now it's my turn to be strong for you." I broke into tears, not from sickness, but from love. Where was that boy now? The boy who pressed cold cloths to his mother's forehead? Marcus died when Donovan was 12. Cirrhosis. The doctor said living that long was a miracle in itself. I didn't cry at the funeral. Donovan didn't either. We stood there in borrowed black clothes, watching them lower a man neither of us had much left to mourn. Life afterward was easier, quieter. No more yelling, no more empty promises, no more lies. I picked up more shifts, worked weekends, holidays. Anytime they needed someone, I said yes. The coffee cans filled faster. 1 became 2, 2 became 3. Donovan played point guard on his high school basketball team, quick, smart, good enough to dream of scholarships. I never missed a game. Sat in the bleachers with aching knees and a thermos of coffee to keep myself awake. I cheered until my voice cracked. There was one game, the regional semifinals, where Donovan fell and broke his wrist. He screamed in pain. I ran onto the court. "I'm here, baby, I'm right here." They rushed him to the ER. I sat beside him holding his hand. He was taller than me by then, but still my little boy. "Mom, I'm scared I won't play anymore." "Then you'll do something else." "But I love basketball." "I know, but sometimes life takes what we love to teach us to love something new." He looked at me, tears spilling out. "Mom, have you ever lost anything?" I thought of Marcus, of the years stolen, of the dreams I never reached. "A lot, baby, but I got you. That's enough." He squeezed my hand. "You're the best person in the world, Mom." Why were these memories surfacing now, when my cheeks still burned from the slap of that same child? The scholarship didn't come. Donovan's grades were good, but not exceptional. His basketball skills strong, but not strong enough. That night, I pulled out the coffee cans. I counted. $17,000. 17 years of sacrifice. Meals skipped, shoes worn thin, winters spent without heat so he could have a future. I used every dollar to pay for Donovan's 4 years of college. Tuition, books, housing, everything. On graduation day, he wore his gown and tilted mortarboard, smiling from ear to ear. I sat in the stands in a Goodwill dress, heart overflowing with pride. After the ceremony, he ran to me and hugged me tight. "Mom, I did it." "No, baby, we did it." He pulled back, hands on my shoulders, looking straight into my eyes. "I know what you sacrificed. I know your whole life has been for me. I promise, when you're old, when you need me, I'll be there." I cried and held him. "I don't need you to repay me. I just need you to be happy." "I will, and I'll make you happy too." Looking back, was that a real promise, or just something youth makes people believe they can keep? Donovan met Maria at a pharmaceutical conference. She sold medical equipment to hospitals. 6-figure income. Drove a BMW. Owned a Center City condo with a stunning view. They married 2 years later. I wore a Goodwill dress, sat in the 3rd row, smiled in every photo. The first time I noticed a real shift in Donovan was at his birthday dinner. Maria hosted it at a fancy restaurant in Rittenhouse. Their friends dressed in designer clothing, talking about stocks, European vacations, and wine that cost thousands. I sat at the end of the table, wrapped in an old cardigan, feeling like an alien. A woman turned to me. "And who are you?" Before I could answer, Donovan spoke quickly. "This is Estelle, a family friend." A family friend. Not my mother. Not the woman who raised her child from nothing. Just a name. I looked at him. He avoided my eyes. After dinner, he walked me to a taxi. "Baby, why didn't you introduce me as your mother?" He was silent for a moment, then said, "You understand. They're colleagues, you know." "You're ashamed of me?" No, it's not that. It's just, you're different from them." I nodded, got into the taxi. But my heart shattered. That was the first time I realized I was losing my son. Another time, on Thanksgiving, I overheard Donovan and Maria talking. From the bedroom, Maria's voice, soft but sharp as a blade. "I'm just being honest, love. Your mom is sweet. But do you see how she looks at me? Like I'm not good enough? Like I'm with you for your money." "No, Mom doesn't think that." "Are you sure? Did you notice how she asked about my salary, my job, like she was evaluating me?" "That's not it. She's just curious about your life." "Or she wants to make sure I'm worthy of her son?" Maria paused. "Baby, I'm not the jealous type, but sometimes I feel like I'm competing with your mother." "Competing? With my mom?" "Yes. You love her, I get it. But you have your own family now, me and you. That's your priority, right?" Silence. Then Donovan said quietly, "Yes, you're my priority." I stood outside the door, turned away silently. I didn't eat Thanksgiving dinner that year. I said I wasn't feeling well and took a taxi home early. I cried the entire ride. Maria didn't need to yell, didn't need threats. She just planted small seeds of doubt, consistently, quietly, and Donovan, my son, let them take root. The coughing started about 6 months before I called Donovan to ask for help. At first it was just an itch in my throat. Then it got worse, deeper, wetter, heavier. I coughed until I couldn't breathe, until black spots danced in front of my eyes, until I thought I would die right there on the floor of my tiny apartment. The doctor was very young, far too young for the kind of bad news she had to deliver, but her eyes were kind, a little sad. "Emphysema," she said. The word hung between us like a cloud of cigarette smoke that wouldn't dissipate. "Your lungs are degenerating. The tissue is damaged. It can't be reversed." "But I've never smoked," I said, my voice shrinking, tangled in confusion and disbelief. "Secondhand smoke? Environment? You said you worked in a textile factory for 30 years, right?" I nodded. "Cotton fibers, chemicals, cigarette smoke from other workers. Your lungs have been under assault for decades." That night, I sat alone in my dark apartment. I didn't turn on the lights. Only the yellow glow from the street lamps spilled in through the window. 30 years. 30 years of breathing poison. To earn money. To raise a child. So Donovan could have a bright future. And now that future was living in a 3-car garage house in Rittenhouse, while I sat here, lungs dying, alone in a temporary rental. Was that fair? What did I do wrong? I looked down at my hands. Cracked. Rough. Hands that had worked double shifts, hands that had stayed up all night beside a feverish child's bed, hands that had slipped dollar after dollar into old coffee cans. These hands deserved better than this ending. The phone felt twice as heavy in my hand. Shame burned in my chest, hotter than the coughing fits. "Baby, I need help." Silence on the other end, long enough for me to think he'd hung up. "What kind of help, Mom?" Donovan's voice was cautious, guarded. "I can't afford my rent anymore. The doctor says I need treatment. I was wondering if—" I couldn't finish the sentence. The words stuck in my throat like thorns. "You want to move in with me and Maria, don't you?" Not a question, a statement, heavy as lead. "Just temporarily, until I figure something out." Silence again. "I'll ask Maria." He called back 3 hours later. "Fine, you can stay in the guest room, but we'll discuss the details when you get here." Relief rushed through me like a dam had burst. "Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll pay. I'll help around the house. I won't be any trouble. We'll talk later. Be here before noon on Saturday." Donovan hung up before I could say, "I love you." I packed on Friday. Everything I owned fit into 2 suitcases and 3 cardboard boxes. 30 years of life in South Philly, reduced to 5 containers. I picked up an old coffee can, the first one, the one I started filling when Donovan was just 6 months old. It was empty now, light as air, but heavy with memories. I remembered every bill I had stuffed into it, the days when I only had $5 to spare, the better days when I could manage 20, the clink of coins, the rustle of paper bills, the sound of hope. I held the can against my chest and cried. "You did good." I whispered to myself. You did your best. But was that enough? Clearly it wasn't. If you're still listening to me at this point, leave the word enough in the comments. Because from the moment I stepped into that house in Rittenhouse, this story stopped being just about illness and became about how a mother can have her dignity stripped away, piece by piece. The house Donovan lived in looked like something out of a magazine, the kind of house I used to walk past with a stroller years ago, peeking through the fence and dreaming it for my son. White walls, black shutters, a front porch with rocking chairs that looked like no one had ever actually sat in them. Maria opened the door. She wore white jeans and a silk blouse, makeup flawless. Her smile spread across her face, but it never reached her eyes. Estelle, come in. She stepped aside. She did not reach for my suitcase. Inside was even more impressive. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, everything white and gray, gleaming, not a speck of dirt. Like a museum. Like a place meant for displaying a life, not living one. The guest room is upstairs, second door on the right. Maria pointed toward the staircase. Donovan's at the office. He'll be home around 6. I dragged my suitcase up the stairs, my lungs burning, my legs shaking. I had to stop twice to catch my breath. The guest room was decorated entirely in white and gray. A queen bed with too many pillows, a dresser, a nightstand, a window overlooking the backyard. Everything was perfect. Everything matched. Nothing felt warm. I was unpacking when Maria appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame, arms folded. We need to talk about a few house rules, she said. I turned and nodded. Of course. The main bathroom downstairs is ours. You'll use the small bathroom next to the laundry room. Don't come downstairs before 9 on weekends. We like our private time. Don't touch the thermostat. She paused for a moment, then looked me straight in the eyes. And we'll need $400 a month from you for household expenses. $400, more than a third of my disability check. That sounds a bit high, I tried to say gently. Maria's smile sharpened, turned colder. You're using our water, our electricity, our space. $400 is more than reasonable. What else could I say? I had nowhere else to go. All right, I said quietly. Great. First payment is due Monday. Maria pushed herself off the doorframe, took a few steps, then turned back. Oh, and one more thing. Try to keep your medical equipment in your room, okay? The nebulizer, all that. It just brings the mood down. Her heels clicked down the hallway. I sat on the edge of the bed. The photo of Donovan's graduation lay on the nightstand. I had placed it there before unpacking clothes, before setting out my medicine. The boy in the picture looked happy, proud, loved. I didn't recognize him anymore. In the first month, I tried to make myself worthy of that room. I cooked dinner 3 nights a week, scrubbed the bathroom, did laundry, vacuumed floors that were already spotless. Maria complained about everything. The food was too salty, or too bland, or too ethnic. I used the wrong cleaning products, left streaks on the mirror, folded the towels, not like a hotel. I started doing less, stayed in the guest room more, practiced turning myself into a shadow. Donovan came home every evening around 6:30. He'd kiss Maria, pour a bourbon, then disappear into his office. Sometimes I tried to make small talk with him, tell him about my day, the book I was reading, the flock of sparrows I'd seen through the window. That's nice, Mom, Donovan would say, eyes glued to his phone, his voice flat, with no warmth, no affection. I remembered the little boy who used to ask me everything. Mom, why is the sky blue? Mom, why do I have to go to bed? Mom, what do you think I'll be like when I grow up? Now, he didn't ask me anything at all. Some nights I lay in that cold guest room, staring at the ceiling and counting the cracks. 27 cracks. I had counted them so many times I knew every curve, every shape by heart. And I wondered, what did I do wrong? Did I mother him too protectively? Sacrifice too much? Did I accidentally teach him that I would always be there, no matter how he treated me? Or was I never good enough in his eyes? The cramped apartment, the old clothes, the factory job. Had Donovan been ashamed of me all those years? I thought of the night he called me a family friend instead of mom. Maybe in his mind, I had always been something to hide. That thought hurt more than the emphysema. Flashback. Donovan at 14. Mom, what's for dinner tonight? Fried chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes, your favorite. You remembered. I always remember what you like, baby. We sat at the little table in our cramped kitchen, talking about our days. He told me about school. I told him about the factory. We laughed, talked, connected. Present day, Rittenhouse Square. I sat alone in the guest room, eating a microwave dinner off my lap, the TV on mute. I didn't want to disturb them. Downstairs, I heard Donovan and Maria laughing, glasses clinking, soft jazz floating through the vents. They were living their lives. And me, I was just existing, quietly, invisibly, alone. The day I had to take the bus to physical therapy was the day I realized I had lost nearly all of my dignity. Donovan texted me at the last minute. Can't drive you, Mom. Just call an Uber. I couldn't afford an Uber. I had already given them $400 that month, plus $50 for groceries, plus extra toward the water bill that Maria said was too high because you shower so much. I stood at the bus stop for 20 minutes, chest aching, legs shaking. When the bus finally arrived, every seat was taken. I stood for 40 minutes, gripping the rail, trying to breathe, trying not to cough, trying not to collapse. An older woman looked at me. You don't look well, dear. I'm fine, I lied. You need to sit. Take my seat. No, I'm fine. Thank you. But she stood up anyway, taking my hand. Sit down. I'm younger than you are. Tears filled my eyes. A stranger, who didn't even know my name, was treating me with more kindness than my own son. I sat down and cried silently the rest of the way. When Maria lit a cigarette in the middle of the kitchen, there was only one thought in my mind. This is their house. I'm just a guest. I have no right to demand anything. But my lungs were dying. Every breath was a stab, every inhale a deeper cut. Maria. My voice was barely more than a whisper, a plea. Please, don't smoke in here. My lungs. She blew smoke directly into my face, and in that moment, I saw the truth. Maria knew. She knew very well. She knew she was hurting me, and she enjoyed it. When Donovan walked in and slapped me, what shattered wasn't just the skin on my cheek, it was my heart, my faith, every last hope that somewhere inside that man there was still a trace of the boy who once laid a cold cloth on his mother's forehead. Jermaine, it's me, Estelle. Mama Estelle? What's going on? You sound really not okay. My son hit me. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Suffocating, even over the phone line. Say that again. Donovan. My son. He just slapped me, right in the middle of the kitchen, just because I asked his wife not to smoke inside the house. On the other end, I heard Jermaine take a long breath. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. It was no longer the voice of the boy who once cried at my kitchen table. It was the voice of a lawyer. You're still there, right? In their house? I'm still here. How bad is the injury? My cheek is swollen. My mouth is bleeding. I can feel the imprint of his hand on my face. Good. He spoke very slowly, very clearly. Don't put ice on it. Don't put anything on it. Take pictures immediately, from multiple angles. Good lighting. I need indisputable evidence. Jermaine, do you remember 20 years ago? His voice softened a little. When Sandra left me, when I told you I wanted to give up, you sat with me every night in that tiny kitchen, cooked for me, listened to me ramble, told me I deserved better than this, that I could be a better man. I closed my eyes. I remembered it vividly. Jermaine hunched over at my table, head in his hands, crying like a child. I fried eggs, made soup, poured coffee, repeating the same sentence over and over. You are not a failure. You're just in the middle of your journey. Now it's my turn. When he said that, his voice turned to steel again. We're going to make them pay. Every dollar, every second, every bruise on your face. I promise you that. I made the second call. Keisha, it's Aunt Estelle. Aunt E, oh my God, it's been so long since I heard your voice. How are you? I swallowed hard, forcing the tears down. Not good today, baby. Not good at all. What happened? I told her. In pieces. 6 months living in their house. $400 a month. The smell of cigarettes. The contempt. The slap. Keisha was silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice trembled with anger. Do you remember when my mom was dying? I was supposed to go to Chicago for school. I was going to give it up, stay home with her, and you said, you go, I'll take care of your mama. I remembered. So clearly. The small hospital room, the beeping of machines, her mother's thin hand resting in mine. You sat with her, held her hand, sang to her, until her last breath. Keisha drew in a deep breath. I don't need you to repay. No, Keisha cut me off. I owe you, Aunt E. But this time I'm not just paying you back out of gratitude. This is news. This is a story that needs to be told. Elder abuse inside a wealthy family. A successful son hitting his sick, elderly mother. The newsroom at the Philadelphia Inquirer is going to explode. I dialed the third number. Mama Estelle? Andre, baby. You sound really sad. What happened? Do you remember what I used to say? Back when you and Donovan were in the dorm, I told you both you were my boys. I remember, Andre said immediately. And you were right. You raised me like a son. Donovan, he hit me, Andre. Silence on the line. Then a sound like something being slammed onto a table or the floor. He did what? I flinched at his voice. That boy had never raised his voice at me before. I'm sorry, Mom. His tone lowered, but still shook. It's just, that can't be real. Donovan? The guy who always said he'd take care of Mama Estelle one day. He's not that boy anymore, Andre. You're still in that house? I am. Do you keep financial records? Bills, receipts, transfers, everything? Yes. I photographed everything, every single payment. Good. Andre's voice shifted into that of a professional. Send it all to me. I'll dissect every line in Donovan's accounts. If there's something shady going on, and I'm almost certain there is, I'll find it. His voice caught at the end. You saved me, Andre said quietly. Now it's my turn to save you. If you've made it this far and you're starting to feel heat in your chest, anger on my behalf, leave the word justice in the comments, because from this moment on, I am no longer just an old mother who got hit. I am a woman gathering every connection, every favor, every piece of evidence to prepare for a counterattack Donovan and Maria will never see coming. That night, after those 3 calls, the cold guest room suddenly felt less cold, not because of the temperature, but because, for the first time in 6 months, I didn't feel completely alone. Jermaine, the young man who once collapsed at my kitchen table, Keisha, the borrowed niece who entrusted her own mother's final days to me, Andre, the former roommate I used to sneak extra food into a container for, all of them were coming back now. Not with tissues and sympathy, but with case files, cameras, spreadsheets, investigations, and statutes. The day Donovan slapped me, he thought the story was over, but in truth, that was the day my story began. The next morning, I woke up at 6, not because I had slept enough, but because I hadn't slept at all. I lay there in the dark, watching the faint lines of light on the ceiling, quietly counting each minute as it crawled toward 9 a.m. Around 7, I heard sounds from their bedroom, the shower running, Donovan's electric toothbrush buzzing, the sounds of a normal morning, as if nothing had happened yesterday, as if he hadn't just hit his own mother in the middle of the kitchen. I forced myself to sit up. Every part of my body ached, my cheek throbbed. When I looked in the mirror, the handprint was still there, bruised, swollen, red, angry, clear enough that I could count each finger. I lifted my phone, took a picture, one more for my growing collection of evidence. Then I showered, changed into clean clothes, took out the cardigan Donovan had bought me for Christmas 3 years ago, back when he was still trying to pretend he cared, and put it on. At 8, I went downstairs. They were already in the kitchen. Donovan was drinking coffee, eyes glued to his phone. Maria was eating yogurt, eyes locked on her tablet. Neither of them looked up when I walked in. "Good morning." My voice was calm, steady, not shaking. Morning," Donovan muttered, still not looking up. Maria didn't bother to respond. I poured myself a cup of coffee. My hand did not tremble. I had rehearsed this moment all night in my head. I had to be calm. I had to act normal. I had to make them believe yesterday was just a small incident that had already passed. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table I'd been standing beside yesterday when my son's hand struck my face. I took a sip of coffee and waited. At exactly 9 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Donovan finally looked up, frowning. "Were you expecting someone, Mom?" "Yes." I set my cup down. "Yes, I was." Maria snapped her head toward me. "What?" The doorbell rang again. I stood up. My legs were steadier than they had been in months. I went to open the door. Jermaine Hobbs stood on the front porch, tall, upright, his suit clearly costing more than Donovan's. He carried a leather briefcase, his face cold, hard as granite. "Good morning, Estelle." His voice softened when he spoke to me, but as his gaze passed over my shoulder into the house, his tone changed completely. Cold, sharp, professional. "Mr. Rowland, Mrs. Rowland, my name is Jermaine Hobbs. I am an elder abuse attorney. May I come in?" Donovan appeared behind me, his face drained of color. I turned to look at my son. My voice remained steady. No shaking, no raised pitch, no drop. I called for help. "What you did yesterday was assault. What you have done for the past 6 months is financial exploitation and emotional abuse." Jermaine stepped inside. No one invited him, but he walked in as if this place was no longer their house, but a crime scene. He set his briefcase on the console table in the hallway, opened it, and took out a stack of documents. "These are the preliminary papers," he said. "A cease and desist notice. Formal notification that we are filing for an elder abuse investigation with the state of Pennsylvania. And paperwork for a restraining order, which we will be submitting to the court this afternoon." Maria stormed out of the kitchen into the hallway. She was still wearing the same yoga outfit from yesterday, hair messy, makeup smudged. She looked at Jermaine, at me, at Donovan, her eyes wild. "This is insane. We let her stay here. We take care of her." Jermaine pulled out another set of papers and slid them onto the hallway table. "These are bank statements showing that Mrs. Estelle Rowland has been paying the two of you $400 a month out of a disability check of $1,100. That leaves her $700 for all other expenses, including medication, clothing, and basic personal needs." "We have a nice house," Maria snapped. "Maintaining a nice house is expensive. She should contribute." "The average rent for a room in Philadelphia is about $500 a month," Jermaine replied, his voice utterly even, never rising, never shaking. "That usually includes utilities. You charged her $400 for a guest room, plus additional charges for water, electricity, and groceries. Do you have any receipts showing that her usage of these utilities match the amount you took from her?" Silence. "I didn't think so," Jermaine concluded. He pulled out yet another file. "I also have photos. Would you like to see them?" He began laying the pictures out on the table. My guest room, the small bathroom by the laundry, the mold in the corner of the wall, the window with a broken lock, pictures of my medications, photos of the receipts, and finally the picture from this morning, my face, the purple bruise in the exact shape of a hand, swollen and undeniable. Donovan's face went ghostly pale, so pale it looked like every drop of blood had drained from him. "Mom, we can fix this," his voice cracked. "We can talk about this." "Mr. Rowland," Jermaine cut in, "I strongly advise you not to say anything further. Anything you say from this point on can and will be used as evidence in court." The doorbell rang again. Jermaine's lips curved into a small smile. It was not a pleasant one. That would be the rest of our team. If at this point your hands are shaking for Mrs. Estelle, go ahead and comment the word awaken below. Because from the moment this door opens, Donovan and Maria will no longer be facing a frail old mother. They are about to face the law, the press, and the very children Estelle once rescued. I opened the door. Keisha Dunley stood there, a large camera bag over her shoulder, next to a man I didn't recognize. Behind them stood a woman in a county uniform holding a clipboard. Adult Protective Services, the woman introduced herself. We received a report of potential elder abuse and neglect at this address. I'm here to conduct an investigation. Maria screamed, a high, shrill, almost screeching sound. This is harassment. We'll sue all of you. No, you won't. Jermaine's voice cut through, sharp as a blade. Because if you interfere with an APS investigation, that is an additional criminal offense. If you attempt to intimidate witnesses, that is another criminal offense. If you do anything other than cooperate fully, I will personally ensure you face the maximum penalty under Pennsylvania law. Keisha stepped inside. She looked at me. Her gaze fell on the bruise on my face. For a moment, her eyes softened, filled with sorrow. Then they hardened again, turning cold. The cold of someone who has seen too much injustice and can no longer bear it. Hi, Estelle, she said quietly to me. Then she turned to the others, her voice clear, strong. My name is Keisha Dunley, investigative reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. I will be covering this story. Would anyone like to make a statement? The APS investigator opened her clipboard and flipped to a fresh page. I'll need to interview each of you separately, she said. Mrs. Rowland, may I speak with you first? I nodded. She led me into the living room, the beautiful living room with the white sofa Maria never allowed me to sit on. Now, I sat there. Me and the investigator. Just two women. One older woman with gray hair, a bruised face, lungs failing, and another with kind eyes and a county badge glinting on her chest. She began asking questions. How long had I lived here? What were the living conditions like? Did I feel safe? Had I ever been threatened, assaulted, neglected? I answered each question. I did not soften the truth. I did not leave out the ugly parts. 6 months of humiliation poured out into steady, measured words. Through the doorway, I could see Donovan and Maria in the kitchen. Jermaine stood between them and the rest of the house like a human barricade. The photographer moved around, taking shots of every corner, every detail. Another car pulled up outside. I didn't have to look to know who it was. Andre Tillman stepped through the open door. He was bigger than the last time I'd seen him. Taller, broader, carrying himself like a successful professional. But his eyes were the same. Warm, gentle, completely opposite of Donovan's now. He saw me in the living room. His face crumpled instantly. Mama Estelle. His voice cracked on my name. 3 strides and he was at my side, kneeling beside the sofa, taking my hand. His thumb brushed over my bruise, so lightly, so carefully, as if he were afraid of hurting me more. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have come to see you. I should have checked in. I should have known. It's not your fault, baby, I said. It is my fault. You raised me better than this. He stood up, turning toward the kitchen. His voice sharpened, became ice cold. Donovan, get in here. Now. Donovan shuffled in, walking like a man heading to his execution. Andre stood between us, a barrier, a shield, protecting me the way Donovan should have, the way a real son is supposed to. I pulled all your finances, Andre said. Do you want to tell Mom again? That you didn't have enough to help her? That money was tight? That you were barely getting by? He opened his briefcase, took out a stack of papers, and spread them across the coffee table. Investment portfolio, $1.3 million. Vacation home in Sedona, $450,000. Your annual income, $285,000. Maria's, $310,000. He looked up, staring straight at Donovan. His gaze was no longer that of an old college friend, but of a man facing a stranger. You have $600,000 in liquid assets. Your monthly expenses are $9,000, including mortgage, cars, the whole lifestyle. And you charged your dying mother $400 a month to sleep in the guest room of your house. Maria's voice rang out from the kitchen, sharp, defensive. We have expenses. We have a lifestyle to maintain. Andre didn't even bother to turn around. Last month, the two of you spent $4,000 on restaurants, $3,000 on clothes, $2,000 at a spa, and you still took $50 from Mama Estelle for the groceries she ate. Want to see each receipt? Because I have them. Every single transaction. The APS investigator was scribbling furiously. The scratch of her pen sounded like tearing. Donovan collapsed onto a chair, burying his face in his hands. I didn't think it would go this far. You hit her. Andre's voice shook, but each word was clear. You hit the woman who raised you, the woman who worked herself into emphysema so you could go to school, the woman who gave you everything, and you hit her because she asked your wife not to smoke in the house so you wouldn't kill her faster. I was stressed, Donovan stammered. We were both stressed. Mom always complains, always needs something, always, huh? Andre's voice broke, rising. She needs oxygen, Donovan. She needs medication. She needs the bare minimum of dignity. That's it. You make almost $600,000 a year and you couldn't give your mother dignity? Silence. The APS investigator stood, closing her clipboard. I've seen enough, she said. Mrs. Rowland, you cannot legally remain in this home. It is not safe. Do you have somewhere else to go? She can stay with me, Germaine said immediately. My wife and I have a guest house. It's vacant. It's yours, free of charge, for as long as you need it, Estelle. I'll help move everything, Andre added. I'll have this story in print tomorrow, Keisha said, eyes still fixed on Donovan and Maria. Front page, with photos, with documentation, unless... She paused, turning slightly toward Donovan. Unless you want to make a public statement, accept responsibility, and agree to restitution. Donovan lifted his head. His eyes were bloodshot. Everything, Germaine said, his voice like a metal line drawn across the table. Every dollar she paid you, plus full coverage of her current and future medical bills, plus compensation for emotional distress, plus a public apology, plus a binding legal agreement that neither of you will ever contact her again unless she initiates it. And if you refuse, he continued, we will file every possible criminal charge, assault, financial exploitation, elder abuse, all of it. Maria grabbed the car keys off the kitchen counter. I'm not staying here for this. Germaine stepped forward, blocking the door. Actually, Mrs. Rowland, you will stay, he said slowly, clearly, because the district attorney would like a word with both of you. He is on his way right now. Maria's hands shook violently. The keys clinked together in her grip. District attorney? This is a criminal case now, Germaine replied. From this moment on, every choice you make will matter very much. I stood up. My legs felt steady, truly steady. No more trembling like in the last few months. The APS investigator guided me upstairs, back to the guest room so I could pack. It didn't take long. Everything I owned in this life, once again fit into 2 suitcases, just like the day I arrived. But the woman dragging those suitcases was not the same one who had walked into this house 6 months ago. That woman was shattered, desperate, grateful for crumbs of affection. This woman had finally remembered she had worth. I picked up Donovan's graduation photo, held it in my hands for a long time. The boy in that picture was gone. Maybe he had never truly existed. Maybe all my life I hadn't loved the real Donovan, but the idea of him, the dream of who he could become. I set the photo back on the nightstand. I didn't need it anymore. Before leaving, I stood in the doorway and looked at the room one last time. The gray-white walls, the bed that was too soft, too unfamiliar, the 27 cracks in the ceiling I had counted again and again through sleepless nights. 6 months of my personal hell contained in one cold little room. But it was also here that I found my strength again. Here that I whispered to myself, enough. Here that I remembered, I deserve better. I turned off the light, closed the door, did not look back. 3 days later, I sat in Germain's office. The space was elegant, floor-to-ceiling windows, soft leather chairs, a polished mahogany desk. Success suited him. I felt happy for him. He deserved it. "They've agreed to the settlement," Germain said, sliding a stack of documents toward me. "Full reimbursement of every expense you paid them, $2,400. Coverage of all medical bills, past and future, estimated at about $30,000 a year. A public apology to be printed in the Philadelphia Inquirer. A permanent no-contact order. They are forbidden from coming within 500 feet of you." He turned to another page and pointed at a paragraph. "And here, they are required to fund a scholarship for adult children caring for elderly parents, $5,000 per year for the next 10 years. They must also complete mandatory training on elder care ethics and sensitivity as a condition for maintaining their professional licenses." I read the lines once, then again, and again. "A scholarship," I said slowly. "That wasn't my idea." "It was mine," Germain replied. "But it only goes into effect if you approve it. That money will help other families. It will raise awareness. It might prevent what happened to you from happening to someone else." I thought of other women, other mothers, people who might end up in cold guest rooms like I had, counting ceiling cracks in the dark, shrinking themselves just to be allowed to exist in their own children's homes. "Yes," I said. "I agree." Germain smiled. "Good, because there's more. Maria's pharmaceutical license is under review. Turns out she already had a few complaints regarding her treatment of elderly clients and her high-pressure tactics with seniors. The board has opened an investigation." He paused, then continued. "As for Donovan, he has lost his 3 biggest clients. News travels fast in Philadelphia. People don't want to entrust their finances to a man they can't trust with his own mother." Germain closed the file. "He's not completely destroyed, but he has been hit hard, professionally, financially, reputationally." I was supposed to feel relieved, vindicated, satisfied. All I felt was tired. "Will I have to see them again?" I asked. "No, not unless you want to. The restraining order is permanent. They both signed it. If they violate it, they go to jail. Simple as that." The apartment Germain and his wife helped me find was small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen just big enough for a table and 2 chairs. But it was mine. Sunlight came through the windows. The heater worked properly. The bathroom had grab bars and non-slip mats. I could breathe here. Really breathe. Andre helped me move in. He pulled things out of storage, a sofa, a TV, lamps, pieces he said he had saved for someday. Someday turned out to be today. "Mama Estelle," he said, his voice thick. "You deserve a place like this, and more." Keisha visited twice a week. She brought groceries, sat and talked, told me about the article, how it spread, the response when Donovan's story came out, the people who began reaching out. Elderly parents exploited by their own children, people abandoned, harmed, erased inside their own families. "You've started something," Keisha said. "You spoke up. You fought back. You gave other people permission to do the same." I still kept Donovan's graduation photo, but I didn't hang it up. I stored it in a drawer. Because that boy did exist once. Because that love was real once. And I needed to remember that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined the good years, the sacrifices, the hugs, the promises. But I also needed to remember this. Love is not always enough. Sometimes the person you love becomes a stranger, and sometimes, to survive, you have to let go. One night, I opened the drawer, took the photo out, and looked at it for a long time. "I love you, Donovan. I always have," I whispered. "But I also love myself. And sometimes, loving yourself means saying goodbye." I put the picture back in the drawer, closed it. If you've stayed with me this far, leave the word dignity in the comments. Because from this point on, the story is no longer just about a slap, a lawsuit, or an article. It is about the hardest thing in the world: learning to love yourself enough to walk away from the person you once loved most. The next part, the final meeting between me and Donovan, is the part many people won't be able to handle, but it's also where you'll see it most clearly. A mother finally standing on her own side. 3 weeks after the slap. 3 weeks after everything changed. I was sitting in my new apartment, drinking coffee, watching the morning news when the phone rang. It was Jermaine. "Estelle, I thought you'd want to know," he said. "The pharmacy board has reached a decision on Mireia." I set my coffee cup down. "They're suspending her license for 6 months, mandatory counseling and ethics retraining. One more complaint, and it's revoked permanently." "And Donovan?" I asked. "The firm requested his resignation. On paper it says voluntary, but you know how that is. They gave him a severance package. He'll find work somewhere someday, but not in Philadelphia. His reputation here is finished." I was supposed to feel something, a sense of victory, a sense of justice, some shred of satisfaction, but I only felt empty. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "Estelle," Jermaine's voice softened, "you did the right thing. What happened to you was wrong, but you stopped it. You forced them to face consequences. That matters." "I know." After I hung up, I sat in the quiet for a while. The little apartment was peaceful. It belonged to me. The kettle whistled. Cars passed faintly outside. Ordinary sounds. Enough. The doorbell rang. I walked over and looked through the peephole. Donovan. My heart stuttered, sped up, then steadied. He looked different, thinner, older, exhausted. The no-contact order was still in effect. For him to be here meant he was breaking the law. I could call Jermaine. I could call the police. I could have him put in jail. I opened the door a crack. The chain stayed on. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking. "Please, I just need 5 minutes." "You're not allowed to be here," I replied. I know, but I have to. He swallowed hard. "I need to apologize. I really, truly need to say I'm sorry." I stayed silent. "I was wrong about everything," Donovan went on. "The way I treated you, the things I said, the things I did." His hand shook. The envelope in it trembled too. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. I just need you to know. I need to say it myself, not through legal papers." I looked at him. For the first time in weeks, I really looked. The boy I had raised, the man he had become, and the stranger standing outside my door. "You broke my heart," I said quietly. "I know. You made me feel worthless. I know. You hit me." His face crumpled entirely. "I know. God, I know," he whispered. "Every morning when I wake up, that's the first thing in my head. The sound of my hand hitting your face, the look on your face. I hate myself. I hate what I've become." "Good," I said. "You should hate yourself for that." He nodded, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "Mireia left me. She moved out last week, said I ruined her career, her reputation, her whole life. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, no regret, just emptiness. The firm fired me. Clients left. Friends went quiet. All of Philadelphia knows what I did, knows what kind of person I am." He let out a hollow, humorless laugh. "Now I finally understand what it feels like to be invisible. To feel like you're nobody, nothing." "Is that why you're here?" I asked. "To be pitied?" "No." He pushed the envelope through the narrow opening. "This is a check for $50,000. It's not much. It'll never be enough. But it's all the liquid cash I could pull together right now. I want you to have it. For medication, hospital bills, for anything you need. Please." I didn't take it. "I don't need your money, Donovan." "Then what do you want?" I paused. This time, I really thought about it. I truly asked myself, what do I still want from the son who crushed me? From the man who chose a woman with a perfect ponytail over the mother who raised him with her own lungs? I want you to become a better man, I said slowly. I want you to take those counseling and training sessions seriously. I want you to fund those scholarships with your whole heart, not just with your wallet. I want you, every time you see an elderly person, to remember how you treated me. And I want you to change. For them. For yourself. And for the memory of the boy you used to be. Tears streamed down Donovan's face. I will, he said. I promise. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make this right. You can't make it right, I replied. You can only move forward, and you can only do that without me. He flinched as if I had slapped him. I know, he whispered. I know I've lost you. I know there is no second chance. I just needed to say I'm sorry. Needed to say you deserved better. So much better. I know I deserve better, I said. That's why I left. Donovan set the envelope down on the floor, just outside the door. If you ever change your mind about this money, or about anything, he said, I'll be here. I'll always be here if you need me. I don't need him anymore, not the way I once did. He turned away, then stopped, looking back one last time. I love you, he said. I know I have a horrible way of showing it. I know I destroyed everything. But I love you. I believe you, I replied. But love is not enough. Love without respect is nothing. Love without care is just another form of abuse, and I will not accept that anymore. Not from you, not from anyone. He nodded, turned away, got in his car, drove off. I closed the door, locked it, slid the chain back into place. The envelope still lay on the doorstep. I left it there. Tomorrow, when Andre comes by, I'll ask him to take it, return it, donate it, burn it. I don't care. I don't need Donovan's money. I don't need Donovan's apology. I don't need Donovan's presence in my life anymore. I have myself. I have the friends who chose to stand by me. I have dignity. I have worth. I have enough. If you have ever felt invisible in your own family, if you have ever been made to feel small by the very person you sacrificed everything for, if you have ever questioned whether you still have any worth at all, just because the people who were supposed to love you treated you like a burden, I need you to hear this clearly. Your worth is not determined by how other people treat you. Your voice matters. Your boundaries matter. And it is never too late to stand up for yourself. Sometimes the quietest people are the ones who make the loudest impact, the moment they decide to speak up. To anyone who is fighting a silent battle of their own, to anyone who feels like they are slowly drowning inside someone else's house, to anyone who is being belittled, pushed aside, treated as if they don't exist, you are not finished. You are only just beginning. Your comeback is being written, day by day, choice by choice. Every single time you say, enough, stay calm, stay sharp, and let your actions speak louder than every cruelty they have ever done to you. If you're still listening at this point, leave a comment with the words, I deserve better. Not for me, for yourself. It's a small reminder so that one day, when you come back and see that comment, you'll remember there was a day you chose to stand on your own side. 1 in every 10 older adults in America is abused each year. In 90% of those cases, the person causing the harm is a family member. And even worse, only 1 in 24 cases is ever reported. If you or someone you know is experiencing elder abuse, do not stay silent. Call the National Elder Abuse Hotline, 1-800-677-1116. Contact your local Adult Protective Services document. Everything, photos, receipts, messages, notes of dates and details. Tell someone. Share with someone you trust. You are not alone. Now, I want to ask you, which lesson in this story hit you the hardest? If you were in my position, what would you do? Would you stay silent, or would you choose to fight back? Share your thoughts in the comments. Who knows? Your answer might be exactly what someone else needs to hear at the right moment. Don't stop here. Click on the next video that's popping up on your screen and watch another powerful story from our channel. You will not believe what happens when an ordinary person finally says, "Enough." Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the stories of quiet justice, impossible comebacks, and people just like you. People who finally choose to stand on their own side. I'll see you in the next video.